Hello, good to see you again. Welcome to Block 1, Solving Problems with Addition and Subtraction. Lesson 5. I'll share my screen. In your previous lesson, you learned how to use formal methods for addition of decimals. In today's lesson, you're going to learn how to use formal methods for subtraction of integers. Take note that formal method is also called column method of subtraction. Also take note that there are other ways of doing this, subtracting integers. You have the Chinese method, you have the Vedic maths method, but for now, we'll focus on this method. I would like to appeal to you for a favor. Encourage and help us grow our mission to educate children around the world regardless of their economic circumstance. So, like the video, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you. Before we start, I would like you to do these retrieval practice questions in 2 minutes. You can take longer. You can work at your own pace. All right. Assuming you've paused the video and you've worked through the questions, here are the answers. For the first one, the answer will be 74,733. I'm sure you used your formal method of integer addition for this one. The next question you will ask, what is the median of these numbers? To be able to find the median of the numbers, you can either arrange them in ascending or descending order, and then you can find the median. So the median is 288. The range is the largest number subtract or minus the lowest number. So the largest minus the lowest, yeah, or the biggest. Largest minus the biggest, smallest. Largest minus the smallest. Apologies. Okay, let's do some new learning. Here, if we want to do this subtraction, before we do that, I want to write something on the board because you hear me talking about ones, tens, thousands, hundreds. So there is something you really need to take note of. And I'm sure you remember that if we have our place value counters here, if we have 10 ones, so that's 5. This 10 ones is equal to a place value counter that is 10. And then if you have 10 of these, that will be equal to a place value counter that is 100. So if you have 10 of these, so we have 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. So 10 of these is equal to a place value counter that is 100. Okay, now that you know this, let's have a chat. So we want to take 5. So we know this is the ones column. Some people call it unit. So ones, that's tens, that's 100. Okay. So we want to take 5 ones from 3 ones. Well, that's not possible. So we're going to do an exchange. So we're going to take one place value counter, 110 from here, and you know that is equal to 10 ones. So now you have 10 ones. You've made the 10 ones, put the 10 ones here. Remember, we always start from the right when we're doing our column method or our formal method. So we always start, and we always start for Y is because that's when we have the lowest place value. So we have 10 ones here. So altogether, we now have 13 ones. So now we have enough. So we can take 5 ones from there. And that gives us, let's move this to the, so that I can, okay. All right. So that gives us 8 ones. So now we're left with 5 ones. Now you see we have a little problem. We want to take 7. We now have 5 tens. We want to take 7 tens from 5 tens. That won't be possible. So we'll do an exchange. So we're going to take 100 counter and exchange it for 10 tens counter. Okay. And then when we have it there, we now have 15 tens. So we should be able to now take 7 tens from 15 tens. Remember, we took 100 counter from here. So that's left with 7 counters. So we now have 8. And then there is nothing to take away from there. So we have 7. Okay. This one. If we want to subtract, well, how do we go about this? Thinking about the place value we just discussed. Well, I'm sure you have thought about it, and we're going to use exactly the same approach. So we have a little challenge here. We're not going to be able to make an exchange here because we can see that, well, we need to do an exchange so that we can subtract 8 ones from this part here, which is the 7 ones. So because we don't have here to do an exchange, we have to move to the next place value up. So now we can take from the hundreds, that will be equal to 10. So we're left with 3 there, don't forget. That will be equal to 10 tenths. So we now have 10 tens because remember there was 0 tens there before. So we have 10 tens. So we'll be able to take away from there, but not yet because we have to fill to the right to make sure we've solved the actual problem we dealt that made us to have to go to the hundreds column to do our exchange. So now we can take 110 from these tens, and then we're left with 9. And then we can put that 10 ones here because remember the 110 is equal to 10 ones. When we put it here, it's now 17 ones. So we can do our subtraction now. So 17 ones minus 8 will be 9. And then here we have 9. 9 minus 2 will be 7. So 9 tens minus 2 tens will be 7, which is 70. So this value 7 is what? 7 tens, which is 70. And then 300 minus 100 is 200. All right, it's now time for you to practice. I hope you learned something from there. So practice what you've learned. Pause the video and answer question 1 in 3 minutes. All right, assuming you've paused the video and you've answered question 1, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. So here you were asked to use the place value chart to complete the calculations. And so here the place value chart shows the number 56. All right. So to complete the calculation, you could have been able to do what we did just now when we did the examples. All right. Pause the video and answer question 2 in 3 minutes. Okay, assuming you've paused the video and you've answered question 2, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. So again, you're simply required to use your place value chart if you have to use it, but sometimes you can do this mentally by looking at how we start working from the ones to the tens and then the hundreds. So these are the answers. Celebrate your success, mark your work. Really well done. All right, pause the video and answer questions 3 and 4 in 4 minutes. So you can see here column method. So the formal method is also called column method. All right, assuming you've paused the video and you've really worked hard at this, well done. Here are the answers. So mark your work and celebrate your success. If you got anyone wrong, you can go and review it again, thinking about how we did our exchange in our place and our thinking about our place value chart. All right, let's look at one more example before you do your final sets of practice questions. So here we have missing value problem. Now, what you need to think about is when we work with missing value problems, we need to start to think in reverse sometimes. So for example, let's look at our place value chart, looking at the counters. So we see that this number here represents 6 10,000s, not thousands, 100, 100 place value counter, and 3 tens. Okay, we want to use this to find out what's missing. So if you look at the first one, we know that we took 6 away from a number of ones to get 5. Now, if you use our uh, bar model, we'll see that it has to be 11 ones. But if it is 11 ones, thinking about the way we write when we're doing our subtraction, there must have been a 1 here. So we must have done an exchange from the 3. All right? We must have done an exchange from the 3. So to be able to do that, that will have to now be 11 ones. So if we represent it on there, we'll have this. And there will be 2. So that's what the calculation would have been for this to be correct. So we actually have 11 ones. And then by taking away 6 from 11 ones, we have 5. Now we have 1 here. So what could have been here for this to be 1? It should be 1. All right. When we take away 1, we know that should be 1. So 1 should be there. Now, what could have been here for this to be 1? It has to be 0. So 0 hundredths. So there is nothing to put there. Now we come to this. We'll say, okay, what could have been here for us to get 8 thousandths? Well, you say, all right, if we use our bar model, that has to be 12. It has to be 12 thousandths for it to be 8. So it has to be 12 minus 4 for us to get 8. Now, which means there must have been a 2 here, and we must have done an exchange from the 6. So let's write that. So we have now, if we represent in counters, this is what we get. So we must have done an exchange, and there must have been a digit 2 there. So it must have been 2. So that makes that correct. And then now, if we do 5 subtract 1, that will be 4. All right. So 5 10,000ths subtract 1 10,000 will be 4 10,000ths. All right. It's now time for you to practice the rest of the questions. Pause the video and answer question 5 in 1 minute. So here you can see the question is given to you in words. You're required to think about how to interpret those words and put them into numbers before you actually solve the problem. So here is the solution. So think about your solution, mark your work, celebrate your success. If you got it wrong, no problem at all. You learn from your mistakes. So go through the question, think about the solution, and then learn from your mistake. All right, pause the video and answer question 6 in 2 minutes. Okay, assuming you've paused the video and you've answered question 6, here are the answers. So here you were required to put these numbers in order of size, starting with the smallest. Well, you wouldn't be able to do that if you don't actually write the numbers out. So if I were you, I would actually write the numbers out on maybe on the side of my worksheet or on the side of my book, and then compare their sizes, yeah, in order of size. So starting with the smallest, we'll write the numbers out. Here is the answer. And then what is the median of the numbers? So now that you have written the number, you can find the median. The median means the number in the middle, counting from the left and also from the right until you find the number in the middle. If you don't remember median, you can go and watch our earlier videos from term 1. So there's a video there where we learned about median. The range is the largest minus the smallest, okay? The biggest number minus the smallest number. All right, pause the video and answer question 7 in 2 minutes. You can work at your own pace. You don't have to do it in 2 minutes. All right, assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the questions, here are the answers. You were asked, find the difference between the number of visitors on Monday and the number of visitors on Tuesday. So a question like this, you're required to look at the table, pick out the values, and use it to answer the question. And then here you're asked to find the range of the number of visitors each day over the week. So you look at the numbers on the table, you pick the largest one, and you use it and you subtract the smallest number from the largest one. And that's the largest, and that's the smallest. Pause the video and answer question 8 in 4 minutes. This could take you a while. Okay, for this one, all right, let's wait for you to finish. So pause the video, answer the question. All right, assuming you've paused the video and answered the question, here are the answers. Now, when we say we should solve the equation, I'm sure you still remember one of our lessons when we did inverse calculation. So we require a number. If we look at our function machine, so our input is A, we're looking for A, so our input is A. In our function machine, we'll add 27 and we get 63. All right, so going this way, we're adding 27, but we're looking for this one. So coming this way, we subtract 27. All right, so that's how all of these were solved. Okay, so going this way, we subtract 27, and then to get B, we add 27. Here is the same thing. So we know that we have to add 315. So to get D, we do the inverse, we'll get 509, subtract 315. Here, we have to subtract 315. So to get E, we do the inverse of our function machine, we add 315. All right. So if you do not know what I've just done, you can go and review our earlier lessons from year 7, term 1 about how we solved equations using inverse operation for our function machines. All right, that brings us to the end of our lesson. So what we've learned so far is that you can use your knowledge of place value and the column method or formal method of subtraction to work out any values or any problems involving subtraction, even problems involving this, which is solving equations. Until next time, well done for working hard today and for learning. Until next time, take care and bye bye.